All right, here we go. I'm gonna start with saying my apologies for the crude video. It's just meant to kind of help people. I didn't dress up the engine bay or do any of that stuff. Currently doing shit right now. Took off that exhaust manifold. It was an absolute bitch because it's not designed in any way to be able to come on and off. It's just designed to work. It actually is not working right now because you can see it's been cracking up at the top. Big separation there. Separation over here. So we're gonna obviously fix those. Gaskets blew out a bit, so we're gonna get new gaskets in there and kind of see. Obviously this one didn't fit in properly when it was crushed, so a little bit of a gap that can be easily addressed. And here are the parts so far that I've taken off. Have the main turbo, the hot side, real shit. I seen this screen that I had underneath this intake. Kind of had this on my turbo and thought, oh, it's a great idea to shove this over top. Didn't think in 100 years that it would actually break the mesh. And this was kind of sucking into the turbo like this a little bit. So I seen that, I thought, OMG, what am I gonna do here? Let's assess the damage. So just so you guys probably wanna know, little bit of scarring on the fins. Actually a lot, I would say. I don't know, it depends on your perspective, what you're willing to run, but I would say that's a decent bit. This one is absolutely chunked. Not seeing material missing, so I'm gonna still run this, mainly because I don't have a lot of money to throw at this project, as you can see with how I made all of this myself. Most of it myself. This was my idea. This awesome oil line, because when I put the turbo in, I only have this tiny bit of room where I had to hammer back to actually get that oil drain out there. This was a great idea for getting the, well, I'm not gonna say it's a great idea at all because it wasn't a great idea, but this was just to get the edges of the turbo, or the manifold, I mean, so I can get the threaded rod in there. That way I can actually get the nut on the end, because I have, this is what I'm talking about. Bottom one of these corner ones barely fits. Like, I'm talking barely fits. So if this wasn't hit and cut in a way that I could actually fit it, then it wouldn't fit on there. I plan on cleaning that up like most projects. I haven't got to it. Clean up all this rust, whatever, that's just do it later. It's a drift car anyways. Turbo hides that perfectly, so I'm not even gonna worry about it. So anyways, we'll go over we'll start with the hot side first. Obviously, you take the manifold, you put it on there. Actually, wait, before we do any of that, sorry, you will have to start with this. You'll have to relocate your coolant reservoir. And that is a difficult one, because even I hardly remember how these lines go. So for reference, if you guys want to try to follow these, this top guy comes up here. So again, following the coolant pipe, now I get lighting figured out. Buddy rolling on the lighting, he's killing it. Look at him, lighting legend. All right, so we start this pipe. That goes to the bottom of this unit. Follow her down here. All the way down, obviously, to there. Then I'll try to keep my finger on it here for you. It is this one here. Focus sucks. So we'll follow it over here. Anyways, it's the bottom line. Goes over here by your AC compressor. Goes down, as you can see, into the water pump. So this comes right off the edge of this water pump here, and that goes to the bottom, which would be here, which has to be relocated over there. So do that, do this top thing. That's your coolant, that's shitty focus, and that is step one. All right, then we'll move on to step two. All right, next thing we gotta do, relocated that from there to there. You're gonna wanna do your intake piping. So obviously intake piping down around the wheel. Kind of see my clamps there, into the intercooler. From the outside, goes back up, mine comes up here to the bottom of the turbo. And on your intake at some point, you will need this blow-off valve. Makes cool turbo sounds. And on these cars, I had questions about where I'm getting these vacuum lines. I'm gonna grab that lighting over here. Go back into the danger zone back here. So vacuum lines, got my blow off valve, that runs over to boost controller over there anyways. So it goes in here, right back here, tucked in the worst possible spot. That is a vacuum bag, and you can barely see it, but there is things attached to that right there. That's where I get my vacuum references. And where this goes is it comes around the back, down here, and it goes about, takes a hard turn down there and goes right there. That is where your crankcase vent would have been. My crankcase vent is uncirculated. That just goes down underneath the car. I'm gonna put a catch can in there, but that's later date type stuff. So you cannot boost the car without deleting that crankcase vent. If this hooks to your recirculator, which hooks to your intake manifold, when this sees boost, it's gonna put the pressure up in here. When this sees 7 to 14 pounds of boost, you will blow those seals out, or the more likely thing is you'll blow out the seal of the oil pan. Ask me how I know. I've done it. Not on this car. E46, exact same concept. That whole thing has to be deleted, but gives you a spot to get your awesome vacuum bank going on there. So that would be step 2. This focus is horrible on this camera. All right, step 3, fueling. Ronan, hope you're having a good time, bud. You're doing a great job. He's like, I know all this stuff. Ronan's sick car over there. Been there, done that. All right. Fuel. You will need one of these gadgets. Rising rate pressure regulator. So these cars normally don't have a return line. So odd thing, all this is wet because I didn't have that line in there for a while, so everything got soaked with oil. So no gas leaking. This goes back to my tank. This comes from the tank. I have a fuel filter. So from tank, fuel filter, the main pump comes in here, keeps everything from here to here. I believe it's 55 PSI on this. Anything over 55 PSI gets shot back down. That's why you have to have the return line, which is not on these cars, because this whole system on these cars from factory is in the trunk, and it will not raise your fuel pressure as you boost. The reason why this line is here is because as I see boost, and I see, let's say in theory, 7 pounds of pressure, I'm running 7 PSI, this 55 has to rise up by 7. So it has to be 62 as I see boost in order to maintain these injectors to do the proper spray. So the injectors atomize a certain amount. It's kind of like trying to take a spray bottle and put a balloon on the end and then blow it up and then try to spray your bottle. That back feed, it's going to affect how it sprays. And then when it affects how it sprays, you don't get proper fueling, detonation knock, all that good stuff. So you have to have one of these. Don't see it a lot. You probably run 7 pounds without it. You will not be running optimally at all. You want one. Even though fuel line's expensive, and to run a higher pressure line for the return line all the way to the back of the car really blows. Yes, I do take my kids in this car. Anyways, goes back to pump. There's a main pump and there's a secondary pump to return my fuel just to my main pump side. So my return goes into the other side of the tank, or I believe actually it returns to this side of the tank, and then one pump just feeds the other side. So that way this stays full all the time in the anti-slosh bucket. That way the car never runs out of fuel. Go into depth detail about that a little later on. Exhaust. This is my exhaust setup. And yes, this is not a fancy shop. We just do the stuff here. We leave our tools around, close it up, we move on. Rowan's car, he's doing the same thing. Those tools, manifolds off, all that good stuff. All right, we'll go back. Phase 4.